everyone, this is Sasha bringing you a video tutorial today from BP4U. And today we're going to be talking about blend modes. Blend modes are really cool because they allow you to change the look of a layer, and you can do it really quickly. And they're what they call parametric, which means that they are non-destructive. So blend modes are separated into groups. And so to see them, I'm going to have to duplicate my background layer because my background layer is locked and I cannot change the blend mode of my background layer. So I have these lines here, and these separate my groups. So the first group that I have is the normal group. This is the darken group. This is the lighten group. This is the contrast group. This is my inversion group. And this is my component group. Okay. So the most common blend modes to use are multiply, screen, overlay, and soft light. And each blend mode in the darken group is opposite to the blend mode in the lighten group. For example, darken and lighten are opposites. Multiply and screen are opposites. Color burn and color dodge are opposites. Linear dodge and linear burn are opposites. And darker color is the opposite of lighter color. So when we're working with these blend modes, we can apply them different ways to get the results that we are looking for. So you see, here's my normal blend mode, and I'm going to show you how to use the dissolve blend mode. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to up my brightness, and I'm going to merge this with my background layer because I got to have a change here. There has to be a change between this layer and this layer. So normal obviously is this. This is normal. Okay, so dissolve looks a little something like this. So you might see this pattern or this what kind of looks like noise or grain over top of my photo. And this is called a diffusion dither pattern. And so what it's doing is it's actually dissolving the brightness layer that I added to my photograph. And that's creating this pattern that kind of looks like a little bit of grain or noise. And so that is the dissolve blend mode. And so next we have the darken blend mode. And you can see that with the darken blend mode, all of them in the darken group take the darker pixels and they keep the darker pixels of all the layers, and they replace the lighter values with darker values. So let's go ahead and let's add a fill layer. Let's do something kind of here in the middle, and we're going to change this to the darken blend mode. And so you can see that it's keeping all of the darker values of my photograph. And so if I double click on that and I put it on black, then obviously my photo is going to turn black because black is the darker of all of the values. And if I put this on white, the closer to white I get, the less of the color that you're going to see in my photograph. And so maybe let's make this kind of a warm color. So we could kind of come down through here and we could warm that up some if we wanted to, and maybe we could lower the opacity to get kind of a look where we tone down our highlights some. So that's just one way that you could use that darken blend mode. Let's pull this back up. The next blend mode that we have here is multiply. And so you can see here that the multiply is really good for darkening, and it kind of creates shadows and removes light from your photograph. And so again, if we used black, you wouldn't be able to see the photograph anymore because the black is dark and it's what's going to stick out the most. But if I were to pull this up all the way white, then you wouldn't even see that I made a change to my photograph. And so as I'm pulling down through here, you can kind of see some different examples of what kind of works on this picture versus what doesn't. And so maybe if I was using this, I would probably want to use something kind of light And then maybe again lower my opacity a little bit just to add a little bit of a tone to my photograph. So again, I'm going to pull this back up and we're going to look at the next one, which is color burn. And the color burn blend mode is darker than multiply, and it has very saturated midtones. And so this is one that you would be able to see as well with the background copy. So we can turn that off and we could actually put this on the color burn blend mode, and you could see how that is just kind of crazy with the very saturated midtones and the how dark that it is. And so going back to this, with this fill layer here and this being such a light color, this actually looks pretty good. Again, the further and the darker that the color that I make, the more of that effect that I'm going to see until I lose my picture pretty much altogether. So the next blend mode that we have here is linear burn. And this one is also darker than multiply, but it's not as saturated as color burn. And again, you can kind of see the difference here between the original and that one. And once again, if you pull that down, the further down that you go, the darker the color that you have here, the more of the effect that you're going to have. And so with any of these darker colors, if you're going to use these fill layers, it's probably best to use a little bit of a tone, but at the same time to keep that light. Unless you're going for a very specific look, of course. There's always exceptions to that rule. Okay, the next one that we have is darker color. And with this darker color, you can see that with that light color, we didn't really see much of a change. But as we pull down through here, with these little bit darker hues of this pink color, you can see how it is affecting our photo. It's kind of similar to the darken blend mode, but it has a little bit of a different look to it. And so you can see here that it's replacing all of our highlights with these colors, and the darker that we make the color here, the more of the highlights that it's going to replace, of course, until we get to black, and then it's not going to replace anything at all. If you look at the hair up here, you can see we have a pretty light color, but if you notice that hair right there, you can still see where that's being replaced, and above her headband as well. So next we have the lighten group, and this is the complete opposite of the darken group. And so this lighter color here is really going to take over this photo, whereas if I were to pull in a darker color, you wouldn't see the effect as much, and if I had the color black, then you wouldn't see the effect at all. And so there, just as we predicted, this lighter color has taken over the photo. And if I were to click on black, nothing changes. And so here we can kind of pull these in to get some nice effects to our photo. And I really do like this lighten group. And I like playing with those darker colors and being able to replace some of them, because sometimes you can get a really matte look to your pictures by using this blend mode, but it's kind of a colored matte. And so it's really fun. Definitely something to explore and play with. The next one that we have is screen. Now this is a really popular one, and I'll show you something I love to do with this blend mode, is I love to take and pick my color, and I love to lower the opacity, and I love to have this, what I like to call colored haze, I guess. To me, I just like the look. And that is, you know, different for your personal style, but I think that's really fun to play with. And so the next one that we have is color dodge. And so you can see that with the color dodge, it's a lot brighter than screen. It's very intense and contrasty, and it has saturated midtones and blown highlights, and it's the exact opposite of the color burn. And so you can see that here. And again, as we pull this color down, you're going to see less of that effect than if we were to use a much brighter color where you couldn't even see the photo anymore. So maybe we'll pull this up to kind of a warm color. And you could see that we could get a really nice effect from using that still. And how pretty of a nice tone that made that. And I love how it corrected the skin tones here and how that has really brightened up my picture and brought it to life. The next one that we have is Linear Dodge, and it's brighter than Color Dodge, but it's less saturated and it's less intense. So it is right here. And so you can definitely tell it's brighter and it's definitely less intense. So I would probably want to lower the opacity of it though because of the brightness. And again, we have a really nice look to our photograph. I love, again, what it has done to the skin tones. And I love how it's warmed up the photo and brought a lot of character to our picture. So the next one that we have is Light and Color. And the lighter color here, you can only see it down here in the shadows. If you pay attention to the shadow that he's created with his hands, you can see that there, and that's because we have a really dark color. The more that I bring this color up, the more of that effect I'm going to see, and this is another one of those ones where you can get that real matte look to your photos by using this light and color blend mode. And so it's only working on my shadows right now. If I were to pull this up to a really light color, you could see that the more that I pulled that up, the more of that effect that I'm going to see until I hit white and the picture would be completely gone. So we will talk about the contrasts blend modes and the other blend modes as well in the next video tutorial. So thank you for watching this video tutorial and happy editing.